Well, it looks like I'm going to stop the video right now. There we go. Okay. We finally just set the recording. I guess we didn't have that on there. So that is already uploaded on the YouTube for Coyote right now. Right now, I have Lindsay coming on, and I know that she was already told by Bella, so let me go ahead and get her set up.
Oh, you can see me? Cool. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. I was so excited like 5 minutes ago, and then as soon as she said Lindsay speak, I was like, okay. First of all, I have very much enjoyed this whole mood so far. I feel like we're really respecting the day and also, creating a really patient and graceful atmosphere for everyone to mourn in or see their achievements in. Okay. First of all, thank you for inviting me to speak. It means a lot. Great. For the reason that unites us here today, let me speak for all when I say it's not fair. Furthermore, it's not fair that we are left up to our own devices to solve this. People aren't paid to do that. Is that not embezzlement, payroll fraud? But here I am, listing a number of allegations with no proof to back it up. But it is not true. I am a primary witness. I will tell you a story, so you know my allegations are from real time, our nation's current events. Literally what the newspapers print for newspaper buyers to read. Without a doubt, all of you have heard this story before. Why? Because here's where myself and Coyote connect. Also, though, it's a good story. But I am not trying to relive the misery this time, as become of me in the past. Instead, I would like to talk about embezzlement and the judiciary system. I've not forgotten that today we are mourning our siblings of violence. Next year, if I am invited to speak again, I would like to tell the story of a pimp I met. I do not support pimps, but at the time, my headspace was there, and I loved the whole life of Atlanta and Nashville streets. But that's because that was as good as it was ever going to get for me, I knew. So I must enjoy it or wither away. I'd like pimps at the time because I had been attacked by customers on a regular enough basis to see a value in a pimp. I would pimp hop every few days or months when a better one came around. I do not support this work structure. However, I'm being honest with you about my mindset at that time of the stories I would wish to bring up next year. My favorite pimp was Marquette. He was a good pimp in the way I wanted my pimp to be at that time. But also during our downtime, I truly enjoyed being around him, and I enjoyed exploring his mind. He was about 30 years older than me and had lived as a Black man in a time that had already assassinated MLK Jr. and JFK in his first years of life. And I watched this pimp, who I did choose every day to connect with, be mentally and psychologically castrated by the justice system. The police literally tortured in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, not only him, but also me for not agreeing to say that Marquette kidnapped me from my parents' house and had been human trafficked me against my will by feeding me drugs. I did part ways with him, but not before we conceived. I did not put Marquette's name on the birth certificate, even though he had been in the hospital with me during labor. I mean, he wasn't in the room when I had to sign the papers, and I knew him well enough. But my son does have very strong genes from Marquette that I am very pleased with. But I would like to bring up some real low-down judiciary officials acting like gangsters. For now, embezzlement at the strip club. So we all know in the Foxy cases, the prosecutor said, sorry to me, as soon as the case was ruled and offered her hand for me to shake. But let me tell you why I turned and exited from where I came instead of shaking her hand. I was dancing at Foxy the night the girl said she was raped, and she really was crying. I believed her, and maybe technically she was raped because the consent she gave to the customer in order to take part in whatever sex act they did take part in was based on him giving her the full amount of money that he skimped out on. Cops of the area caught on that the possibility to participate in sex acts in the VIP room at Foxy was real. I actually did not know that about Foxy, but I did notice it was fairly common for the more higher class customers of Club Desire down the street to request sex acts when I worked there. So I can see some of those customers coming to Foxy to solicitate for a better deal. On the night of the police raid, I was doing a double. My hour break was to be from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Numerous dancers and Foxy staff were texted and called by their friends and customers in the academy to warn about the raid. So we all knew to be on our best behavior all day. I didn't have to leave the street. I didn't have to live a legal life, but I did when my son was born. They should have left it at that. My son is raised in a legal, safe, loving home. I became a stripper, and I worked around his childcare. But instead, the cops chose violence by adding incriminating sentences to the police report from my VIP room that I never said. They threw me out of work for months and had me spend my savings on a lawyer. And after all that, the prosecutor said, sorry, for almost putting my son and I into homelessness, for a false police report, ruined my kid and my life, and for payroll fraud. Sorry for your misuse of using government money on assets. For raids so unsuccessful, you have to make up lies. Not to mention with the intent to kill. I ended it there, but I also would like to conclude with my take on the violence for today was the violence that was done to me from the actual justice system. And also that is doing that to almost everybody who I had ever shared a cell with as well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. We are going to move on, and I believe that Blair is coming up next. Let me see. Actually, not Blair, Scarlett, because I don't know if Blair has made it in here. And if they have, we're going to give them a few minutes to kind of get situated. So I'm going to put you on right now. Okay, Scarlett?
Yeah.
Got you unmuted. There we go. Did you get unmuted? No? Okay, let's try that again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I
Okay,
can hear
great.
you. I know that your video's off, which is fine if that's what you would like, but just letting you know that as well. Oh.
You'll have to forgive me. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it muted
Okay.
you again. I'm not quite sure what's going on.
That might be a sign not to speak. I guess I just wanted to talk about so Bella had me do some research. I was doing some of the research and I was just really overwhelmed. I kept looking for, murdered prostitutes, and I kept finding, I was aware that, serial killers have a taste for prostitutes. That's what they, and also that's probably what they call us too, because I prefer sex worker. And I just wasn't aware of how the list keeps going on. And I just feel like we need, I mean, that's putting the fire in my belly to constantly, be with this fight and to keep going, because every day that it is not decriminalized, that's just another day that someone else gets hurt or someone else gets murdered or something happens to women that, these women are not just, trash. They are somebody's mother. They are somebody's daughter. They are somebody's sister. They are human beings. We are human beings. We deserve to have rights, and we deserve to have protections, and we do not deserve any of the things that happen to us. And it shouldn't matter what our profession is. We should definitely have something that protects us. And this is something every year that we are not granted it. It should make us even madder and more outraged that this is not happening for us. And it just breaks my heart reading like all the lists that I came up with 5 pages and I wasn't even done. And it bothers me, and it makes me want to, go out and do violent acts about everybody that's against us. But clearly I'm not going to do that, because that would make me the person I'm against. So, and that's just what I wanted to speak on. And I will carry these women with me every time I fight, every time I talk to, legislation or talk to a congressperson, because I don't know that anyone is really aware, and I don't know how aware they are, because I wasn't as aware as I probably should be. And that's what's sad about the whole thing. So I'm going to pass to the next person.
Thank you so much, Scarlett. Thank you for sharing that. I have, it's so weird because I don't know a lot of people on here. I do know some people that are sitting in the attendees, but I feel very dry and awkward because I'm not able to do introductions. But as I'm listening to people, I feel a sense of solidarity, and it's so needed in this time. And I appreciate it. And, moving into Alaska's legislative session, I really need that, because I've felt very empty lately. I need to have that hope. When I was doing, putting this together, I didn't want to screw it up, right? And I was looking at all of the names, all of these names, and we just had a sex worker that was killed tragically in a car accident here in Alaska. And, it really, it hits me to the core. One of the first things I was able to do when I was able to get out of jail was actually attend a December 17th. And I remember reading these 2 women's names. And they were 2 women that went missing a few months after I was arrested for sex trafficking, because I am a sex worker, and I was working with other sex workers in Alaska. There's a law that, it's called sex trafficking, not prostitution, not promoting prostitution. But I remember that feeling and just having that sense of sadness. But I know that we have hope moving forward. But at the same time, this is all very heavy stuff. So without saying any more, I'm going to get Janet on here. I understand that Janet is on the phone. So give me a moment and I will get them on here.
Hello, can you hear me?
All right, Janet, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Perfect. All right.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I believe I can. Okay. I think you are on.
Okay. Hello, everyone. For our day together, our day of mourning. I'm going to be kind of brief because everybody's covering a lot of bases already. I know we definitely have to mourn those that have passed on, and we'll keep their memory alive. But this year, I definitely want to highlight the people who are basically still going through violence at the hands of the justice system, going through court and jail, or just not being able to work, stings and everything else. We so rarely actually sit there and take the time to find those of us that are in the street, just trying to survive. There's so many of us that are homeless, barely surviving, literally in the street, just anything. And, December 17th doesn't always focus on that. And that's just what I hope that everyone can think of today. Like, my whole thing is, there's so many of us in jail. New Jersey just had a couple of trafficking rings busted up. I think the article was on December 3rd. One was out of Burlington County. The other one was out of Essex County. What I hear from Essex County, there were children involved. So, that's, there were teenagers involved. So that's definitely problematic. I'm still trying to keep up on updates for that, but there's so little that goes out. And also, how we survived Joey. I believe court was last year, I think. Yeah, I wasn't able to make it then either. But, trying to get into the courthouses with IDs and warrants, that's violence again. So, yeah, I want everyone to think about maybe reaching out to the jails and prisons. And I know there's people that know better than me how to find out the charges that people are in there for. And just, reach out and see, sometimes when I'm walking around at night, sometimes we got to reach out to people out there working too, ask them what they need, because so long as we're criminalized, we're all going to be suffering violence, so if we can just reflect on those of us that are still living and going through it, I think that would be really great. And that's it. So I hope everyone does okay today. Be safe, everyone.
Thank you so much, Janet. I do know that SWAT Behind Bars has a list of people that you can actually write to, and you can also send books to them. So I know here in a little bit we're going to have Alex talk, but keep that in mind, that it makes a world of difference when you are incarcerated to have someone reach out to you to let you know. Katie, I'm going to unmute you and get you going. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yes,
I didn't want to continue until I made that sure that people could hear me. So before I begin my I just wrote something down, but I just wanted to say it's been kind of difficult for me. I'm just dealing with medical stuff. I do have a neurological appointment coming up in next month. So on the behalf of people who passed away, I mean, I think of people who are also in this industry, who are vulnerable, who might be disabled. Like I might be disabled. It's really difficult. Just trying to move forward and trying to survive. But I don't want to get too far in my rambling. So I'll go ahead what I've written down here. So on this day of the 17th of December, we gather to pay homage to those that have either lost their lives to violence or have come close to losing their life to violence, which is committed mostly out of bigotry and corruption, as well as greed. My personal experience with this came when I became an escort in 2018 when Backpage was shut down. With this site being shut down came more arrests, as we know, and more difficulties in retaining earnings from our services. In this community. I wasn't the exception in this matter, as I got robbed and raided twice. I also encountered my fair share of rude and entitled clients, some of which I have no doubt were probably off-duty cops or even government officials who generate as well as enforce laws that take my rights to properly screen clients away, as well as other members of the sex worker community. In the incidents I encountered, I paid with my freedom as well as my earnings seized and sending me to jail for 3 days, while others paid with their lives. To me, that is disgraceful because time and time again, cops, government officials, and other members of society demand services of sex workers. And yet these same individuals find it justified to take freedoms, resources, and income from sex workers while claiming to help sex workers. But how does this help anyone? How does sending me or other sex workers to re-education programs, excuse me, help when I and others still get left with prostitution charges or pimping charges when we get arrested? Even though in my case, I hired a lawyer to fight my charges when I was convicted, they still remain on my record for law enforcement to see. I fear the risk that this brings to my future, and I hate how law enforcement as well as the government profit off of sex workers like me or sex workers that have passed. Another scary reality for the safety of myself and fellow sex workers is what the re-election of the same president who shut down Backpage will do to our community. First, he spread a lot of propaganda about sex trafficking in hopes to distract sex workers, much like the public, with the notion that they're trying to save children. We as sex worker community have caught on to the government and law enforcement's scheme. However, there's lingering questions though. One, how far will the government go to essentially rewrite history to try to not only take away accountability for the violence and stigma they and the public inflict on sex workers as a whole community? And how far will they go to sweep the deaths of the deceased sex workers under the rug to save face? And lastly, how far will the government go to shut down the adult industry entirely, and will us remaining surviving sex workers be next to endure more violence and or become a part of the growing number of deceased sex workers that we have to memorialize as of today? And that's all I have.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you very much. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. I have Who Belladonna coming up next, and I am going to take you off mute and I'll let you introduce yourself. And I probably butchered your name, so please let us know your name. Hold on one second. Here we go.
Hi, I'm here. I'm going to apologize first. I'm recovering from a cold, so if you can't understand some of the words I say, that is probably why, but I'm very much on the mend now. I'm doing mostly better. I would also like to thank Bella just for inviting me to speak and kind of share a poem with y'all. Um, I do kind of want to share kind of the starting inspiration behind this poem, just because that probably relates more to this memorial than a lot of this story in the poem itself. So about 2.5 years ago, I was on a drive with another sex worker in my area, and we were kind of having a little memorial, but she didn't tell me that until later on the drive for her brother, who was also a sex worker, who has passed away. I just kind of wanted to share his story because that was what inspired this piece. Um, he was kicked out of his home when he was about 14 because he had come out of gay. He grew up in a Mormon household, which is very common in Utah, where I'm based, and where we were at the time of this. And he had passed away while she was in prison. It was a really interesting case because his death wasn't super clear. They had found his body out on the road. His car and some of his things had been stolen, but the police ended up ruling his death as a suicide, and she was actually in prison when this happened. I don't know what year it was, but kind of I was just thinking about his story and just maybe the sex workers whose stories go untold, the people who we memorialize, that maybe there are more people that we don't always necessarily know of, which is why I do love having what community we have. But I've definitely myself been in positions doing sex work where I didn't really have a lot of community, and just especially as a trans person, kind of thinking about um, maybe those stories that go untold. And of course, writing this poem, I feel like I don't have the ability to tell someone else's story who's passed, but I could kind of contemplate into maybe what that would look like for me and for my intersections, and just trying to kind of like humanize that sex workers are human beings, that we experience joy, and kind of that erasure that might happen when some of us pass away, um, because necessarily like some of us maybe have family who don't know we're out like I do, or some people have really just been fully cut out from that connection. And so our stories might not necessarily be told as they were. And so that was kind of the thought behind this piece. So this poem is called Soulless Funeral. At my funeral, where I will not attend, not a soul will cry for me, only the corpse of theirs you wet. From a church podium, they will tell a story that is not mine, carve the wrong name in my gravestone, tell an end that is not how I died. At the funeral, from which my lovers will be barred, my siblings will shed tears, my parents pray to their God. At the table, they will serve food I couldn't eat, blessed in the name of a God who for my sin rather than my death would weep. In the eulogy, no one will be able to tell the life of a trans whore, just an identity that was long dead. The eulogy will speak of a girl, not a boy, of twisted faith promoting stories, not his life of queer trans joy. At the funeral, my name will not be spoken, my casket will not be opened, my spirit won't be welcome. On the day of my funeral, my siblings will not comprehend how their beloved older brother, their favorite sister, could be dead. At my funeral, the casket will hide the mutilations of my body from both life-saving surgery and hate crime. To my siblings, my parents will tell lavender lies, that my death was an accident, that it was just my time. Among the chatter of relatives, you will hear there was no suicide note, hear of my selfish wickedness, hear my death was my fault. In the hushed whispers, no one will dare to say that the Kazare girl was a whore, that it's a prostitute who in that casket waits. This soulless funeral will be the third for this body, whose owner bid it farewell ages ago, and whose mother refused to. The eulogy should have spoken of a trans boy who dearly loved, of a whore who often smiled, of a child who lived authentically behind a life of lies. At my funeral, no one will know who it is they bury or what I have done. And so I kind of think of that piece as kind of a contrast to kind of like what we're doing here, where we have a memorial for these individuals, where we recognize just the sadness and the hurt and their loss, and kind of really remember for them for who they are, even though we might not know much about their death or who they were. But that's just kind of what I feel like December 17th is about. And that's kind of all the thoughts I had, since I know a lot of points and great things have been covered by everyone here. So I will pass it to whoever's next.
Thank you so much, Hugh. Thank you. It's good seeing your face again as well. So we do have Alex from SWAT Behind Bars joining us, and I will move them right on over. So one moment. All right.
Okay, so sorry for the confusion. I'm actually using Alex's Zoom. This is actually Phoenix Kalita from Swap USA.
Oh, okay. Well, hey. Bella had told me that Alex wanted to say a few words. So was it you?
No, I actually did think Alex was going to be here as well, honestly.
Alex,
but I
if you're
forgot
in the room, raise your hand.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. Let me see if I can find her. All right. Well, I will put you back on there on mute. Thank you so much, Phoenix.
What are you Phoenix, speak. We want to hear.
There's an encore for you, Phoenix.
Oh no. Okay. Yeah, no, I didn't have anything. Yeah, I didn't have anything prepared, but no, that's totally fine. Can everybody hear me?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think talking about December 17th, the big thing for me is really the list, because I generally compile the list for Swap USA. And, as it tends to go every year, it's really difficult. It's emotionally draining because you're reading about essentially your colleagues being oftentimes murdered in like the most brutal of ways, of their families not accepting them after they've passed on, about people that we love and admire and have relationships are being just abandoned in fields or in empty buildings. And so a big thing for me, the way I get through doing the December 17th list, is really thinking about the resilience of these people, and knowing that essentially no matter how much strife and stigma there is against sex workers just have this amazing sense of resiliency and this amazing ability to always keep fighting and always keep pushing. And so like that sort of hope is something that I really try to focus on, especially during December 17th, but also when I'm making the list, because I feel like that is, hope is kind of what makes me like able to go on doing it, because I find it to be very mentally taxing. I find it to be emotionally exhausting, but knowing that there's sort of like a light at the end of the tunnel, that we not only have this like amazing community of sex workers, we have an amazing community of sex workers who are willing to step in and help each other, willing to, crowdfund causes, willing to go and do outreach, willing to help people, if someone needs somewhere to stay or someone needs resources, trying to provide that to the best of our ability. Willing to educate people about the need for sex workers' rights, willing to talk to lawmakers and officials about how to create policy that makes sex workers safer. And so that's really kind of what I try to hold on to on December 17th, is not just the sadness for folks that we have lost, but also keeping on to the idea of what is possible for the future of sex workers' rights, because there are so many people who are so dedicated to what we do on our causes. And I feel like that commitment is sometimes a little bit overlooked on December 17th, because we are in mourning in a lot of ways, and we are sad and we're very frustrated. And we're tired of hearing, like these horrific stories again and again and again every year. But there's more to it than just the grieving. There's also a really great opportunity to find something hopeful, to find something resilient, to find a community to reach out to and hang on to in a way to actually make progress. And even though we haven't made as much progress as we wanted, especially in terms of decriminalization, we have seen, some things happen, right? Culturally, more and more news outlets say sex workers. They're not using the word prostitute anymore. I think that's a little bit of a win in terms of humanizing sex workers. Sex workers are now more likely to be believed if they say that they're being harassed by police or have been assaulted by police. That's not as socially unbelievable as it was, a decade ago or 2 decades ago. We actually, even if it hasn't always passed, we have had cities actually debate about decriminalization. So, even though we haven't made as many gains as we would hope, we have actually made significant social and cultural and sometimes legal progress, And I think that it's okay for us to sort of celebrate that on days like this, to remind us that what we're doing isn't just about the list. It isn't just about grief. It isn't just about people who have been murdered. It isn't just about, the way society treats us. It isn't just about bad things. It's also about a lot of really good things too. And so that's, for me anyways, kind of what I want to focus on, as I'm going into the new year. And that's sort of how I rejuvenate myself. Okay, we're coming into January. What are we going to do for sex workers' rights? What do we have coming down the pipeline this year? What are we going to do? Where are we going? And I'm getting that energy from this because these aren't just names. These aren't just people who aren't with us anymore. They're part of a community that's going to keep going. It's part of a community that's been going, there's people who are involved in December 17th who were, involved with sex workers' rights before I was even a sex worker, And there's going to be a day when someday there's going to be people younger than me who, are like, oh yeah, I know who Phoenix is. The same way I get to say that about some elders in the movement. And I really appreciate the fact that I know we're not going anywhere as a community. And so that's kind of really what I'm holding on to. And that's what's inspiring me. So I guess my thing was, it's not just about sadness. It's also about inspiration. It's also about tenacity. It's also about resilience, which are things that sex workers are amazing at. So, give yourself some love, give the person next to you a hug. We're really in this and we really are doing amazing work. We are doing amazing things. We are an amazing community, and it's okay to acknowledge that even on our saddest days. So that's kind of all I had. Impromptu. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Phoenix. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, I'm going to call up Juliana back to do some closing, and then we're also going to play the memorial video again after. But while you were talking, Phoenix, I was thinking about here in Alaska, we had a man that was a serial killer, and he was killing sex workers. And the way that he was stopped as a sex worker was able to contact the police because CUSP, a group that I'm a part of here in Alaska, Community United for Safety and Protection, and we're a group of sex workers, former sex workers, and sex trafficking survivors. And they brought CUSP was able to change the law so there's immunity for sex workers to be able to report, right? So this woman, a sex worker, was able to report this man, and he was arrested, and he was actually just sentenced to 236 years last March. And there are other, there's other women that he's serial killed that have not, he hasn't been charged with, but we know that he's off the streets. With that, I want to invite Juliana back up, and let me go ahead and get her back on here. So 1 second.
Hi, everyone. I'm assuming you can hear me. I think I'm unmuted. Well, in closing, I just want to say I really appreciated Phoenix's comments, that it's always good to end on a positive note because this is such a terribly sad day for me and for many of us when we have to really sit with thinking about the amount of violence our community faces. It's almost overwhelming. It's almost a day that many of us would like to not have happen, not have to attend. I know sometimes I feel like I have to drag myself to it. But I think thinking about all the ways that we have made progress, I am one of those elders that Phoenix speaks of, having been in this movement for, I don't know, 25 years or whatever it's been, probably a little longer. But I've seen so much progress. I've seen so much change in the culture, how the culture regards sex workers, how more mainstreamed we are. We don't have decrim yet, but I think we've made tremendous progress. Where I live, we have a progressive prosecutor who doesn't charge sex workers, and that is true in other cities. Philadelphia has a progressive prosecutor. I think LA has one. So, I mean, we're seeing sort of de facto versions of decrim crop up here and there. And so there's been a lot of progress. And just remember that, you can commit acts of resistance by living your life joyfully, by thriving in your life, by having community and family. That is an act of resistance. You don't have to be an activist. You certainly can be, but for some people, that's not a safe thing to do. That's not something they have capacity for, and that's completely okay. When you talk about being a sex worker, if you do engage in some form of storytelling, you don't have to tell a tragic backstory. You don't have to give the people what they want, which is that tragic backstory, and that lone teardrop that goes down your cheek because you've been denied the heteronormative dream or something because you're a hooker, right? Um, we don't have to play into that. We can tell our own stories in the way we want to tell them. We don't have to tell stories that make society like us more. So just being in community with all of you today, the fellowship here, hearing your stories, it just makes me feel really good, really happy, and really hopeful for the future of our movement. So thank you all so much for being here, and thank you for having me here. I really, really appreciate it, and letting me bring a little bit of Carol here with us today as well. Stay safe, everyone. You will all be in my thoughts and prayers, and wishing you all the most joy and safety and success in your lives.
Thank you so much, Juliana, for coming back and talking.
Mhm.
I know this is a powerful day, and your words are powerful. I am going to turn it over to Bella right now. One moment.
Hey, can y'all hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, this is Bella Robinson, and I'm the executive director of Coyote RI. First of all, I want to thank Amber. Amber did all the work to make this happen tonight, but it never happened without Amber. She's a trooper. And I knew it was close to her heart because of what happened in Alaska. I've been a sex worker for 40 years. I caught my first case 2 weeks after I turned 18 years old, and the judge had never been in trouble. The judge said, if you plead guilty, we'll withhold the adjudication. To this day, you go to Pinellas County, Florida, in the database, and it says prostitution conviction withheld, which means they might have just, told the world. It was different back then. We didn't have the internet. It was easier to hide who you were, but I didn't have a sense of community. I thought I needed someone's permission to be part of my community. And if I went to the PTA, what if they found out I was a hoe? And how would that affect my daughter? Um, I went to prison twice. I used to turn $20 tricks for crack. It was not empowering, but no one made me do it. I've been in recovery since. And something broke in me when I heard about Gilgo Beach and moved to Rhode Island and worked under decrim. And it was a game changer because, bitch, now I can tell on you. You can't threaten me. And something in me snapped. That's not okay. And I want to talk about the next generation. The work we're doing right now, we're probably not going to see decrim in my lifetime. I'm 60 years old. I'm probably not going to see it. The work we're setting up, and the data we're collecting at Pembroke that people can see hundreds of years from now is for the next generation. The next generation of youth thrown out to the street will be like nothing we've ever seen before. And we need to be ready with LGBT halfway houses and youth drop-in centers that are run by the community because the government is not coming to help us. So we've been doing a lot of mutual aid and starting, even just doing something little is better than not doing anything. And I'm really proud that a lot of the group members from Healing Hustlings chose to speak tonight. We've created a check-in culture. And if we don't hear from one another, we check in. Proof of life. Got to respond. So it is sad. The year that me and Melanie made the list that went back to 1836, so we can add cold cases as we find them when they're not in the video, was, it's one thing to see, one or two in the news once in a while, but that was hard. Doing hundreds and hundreds of them is not good for your mental health, but it needed to be done. And we keep that list up. I appreciate everyone that's called. When I think about the fact 40 years, I was on the street for years, in and out of prison. Um, Nothing violent really happened to me except for in prison. I had a guy one time tell me he was going to punch me in the face if I didn't suck his dick, so he did. But other than that, nothing bad ever happened. It's amazing. I remember twice I wouldn't get in the car. It wasn't what he drove. It wasn't what he said. I was Jones and I wanted money. And to this day, you can't convince me they weren't serial killers, and I don't know how I knew. Um, I don't know if I have good karma or how I survived 40 years. So I just want to be ready for the next generation, because we're going to be passing the torch off to the next generation soon. So thank you all so much for coming, and have a good night. And May's here now, Amber. So maybe we could do her next. Thank you.
Yes, I will go ahead and get May up here then. Thank you so much, Bella. You are amazing. And let me get May going. Hold on a second. Bella, if you see May on here, can you unmute them? Because I do not see May. They could have a different name or a number.
She texted me that she was here. Hold on. Let me see.
Okay,
Let me
thanks.
text her.
All right.
Do we have someone to go next, and then we'll put May on after?
Nope, that's all we have actually.
You didn't talk. Why don't you talk until I find May?
Sure, I will. Let me unmute, or yeah, here we go. Hi. So, yeah, I'm Amber, and I'm a sex worker here in Anchorage, Alaska. So, I mean, I didn't really go into introducing myself because it's not about me. This is a day to remember, the things that we have done and the people that have passed. And it's been a very strange year for me. So, as she's finding May and we wrap things up, I'll just kind of give you a little overview of me. I've been a sex worker for 20 years. I raised my kids being a sex worker. They know I'm a sex worker. They're both adults now. And it's been bumpy, but it's a job. And I've always seen it as a job. So, in 2014, my life was kind of thrown for a loop. I was arrested, did some time because hell, if you're a sex worker working with other sex workers for safety, that's more important than them searching for the missing and murdered sex workers that we have in Alaska. This can be a pretty dangerous place, like everywhere. And I've been able to, come out of it ahead, but other people that have been charged with my same charge haven't always been able to do that. It's kind of life-changing when you have a sex trafficking charge, doors close. And, for me, I've been able to do a lot of writing. And I also recently just sat in on that trial that I was telling you about, the serial killer that murdered 2 women. And that was very, it's been very heavy, because not only was I in that trial, I also, with 2 other people, decided to, go and talk to him in prison because there were more questions that came up during that time in trial. And because of that, he shared a lot of information that actually resulted in one woman's family being able to go to court and have her declared deceased. There's a lot of different things that have happened because of that, but I know that the things that I'm doing, working along with CUS, the amazing members, Maxine and Tara, and trying to, change some of the laws that we have in Alaska. We feel that everywhere. We're all trying to do things to make our communities safer. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what I feel is important, is trying to make my community safer, trying to call bullshit when someone calls us a prostitute in the news, holding people accountable for their stupid dead hooker jokes, and also, trying to amplify the missing and murdered different sex workers that we have across, not only Alaska, but across the US and across the world. That's pretty much me. I don't want to rattle on too much. I'm not really a talker. I'm more of a doer or organizer. I do have to say, like, this is my first time ever doing a webinar. And, there's some amazing people that are a part of this. There are some amazing people that have been a part of, the whole activism and advocacy of sex work from before I ever kind of came to be. I have to say, this is kind of probably a nerdy thing, but I'm very grateful to be able to do this. But when I saw that Veronica Monet had signed up, I was just in awe. So 20 years ago, we didn't really have the internet. I wasn't able to go on and like how to become, it was called an escort back then, how to become an escort. I didn't know anything. I mean, I just started off the free ads, and there was this book from Veronica Monet that saved my life, that really kind of got me thinking, work-wise and business mind. So shout out to Veronica. I don't know if you're still here, but you are appreciated, and thank you. And with that, I'm going to see if May has made their way back. If not, I'm going to see if Bella has any closing words, and I'm going to try to play that video again with some sound this time. All right, let's see. Bella, are you there?
Yes, May says she's here. May says she's here, but I can't find her on the thing. I'm trying to find out what name she's under, but she texted
Tell
me.
her to raise her hand.
Yeah,
See, they might be SWCCL. I'm going to try them. Hold on.
Thank you.
Hi there, this is Alex.
Oh, Alex. Okay.
Yes.
I was looking for May, but you're there.
Alex. I apologize. I'm signing in from the car, so I apologize for that. Is May available?
I think that they might be. I'm waiting for them. I asked them to raise their hand, and I'm not seeing them. But I did try to call on you earlier, and it ended up being Phoenix.
I heard Phoenix. Yeah, that was great. That was great.
Yeah. Well, I don't see May's hand up. I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but would you like to talk? And also, I was also talking about the Pen Pal project and also the book project that Swap Behind Bars has. So maybe you could talk about that too, whatever you want to. Does that sound good?
That sounds great. Thank you so much.
I'm going to give you the floor then.
All right. Thank you so much. This is one of my I look forward to and dread this day the most, but we are in a room full of people that love us and each other, and we come together on this day to build community and to address the fact that we all experience all kinds of different kinds of societal and institutional abuses that lead to incredible amounts of violence and complicated stuff that goes on in our lives. My primary focus has always been people who have been arrested and are in prison. And I have to say that it is the people that put this webinar together. It is the Bella Robinson, the Maxine Dugans, the U.S. Prostitutes Collective, Rachel West, Kristen D'Angelo. It's all of these wonderful people, the Sidewalk Project, that have all come together and relentlessly fought publicly for us to have the freedoms that we should be having because we're human beings. And I look forward to the day when that is a reality, and that's who we really are. I care so greatly for this community, and I don't know whether I'm an elder activist or just an elder. I don't know, but I remember very well that Bella joined me in a Twitter fight in 2015, and that led to some really cool things for people who are incarcerated. We have a pen pal list. You are more than welcome to sign up on the website. You can write to someone who is incarcerated and has written to us and ask us to give you their names. We've created Amazon wish lists. Those are also on our website. And I'm super excited to announce that we have added the December 17th special edition of the Coyote Project, the FOSTA and CESTA research. We've been adding those to the list for most of the day, to all of the lists. We are also adding multiple copies to the prison library list, which we are starting to find out are starting to reopen. And the people who are staying there as guests, I guess you could say, against their will, will have the opportunity to visit those libraries. And we want to make sure that they are packed full of books that are able to educate them and inform them about what we are doing to support them. But thank you all for coming to this. This is always a wonderful event. Thank you, Bella, for hosting it. And thank you for everyone who put so much work into building this list and creating podcasts, sharing social media posts. Coming together is the best part of this event. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bella. It's good to hear your voice again. Always appreciated. Or sorry, Alex. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm reading Bella and thinking of Bella.
I answered anything. Yeah, it's fine.
Thanks, Alex. It's good to hear your voice. All right. And Bella, I know that you were looking for May. Is May around?
May says she's going to raise her hand. So we're
Okay,
waiting. She just texted me. I'm excited.
Awesome.
Raise your hand. We're all waiting, May.
Nothing like the build up, right?
And I'll tell you real quick before she raised her hand, May wrote a beautiful tribute to the Georgia Massacre about a year after it happened. It was beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, raise your hand. Raise your hand.
Let me see if I'm missing anything here.
Panelists, I don't see her panelists.
And you don't know what name they might have signed in under?
No, but she just said she's going to raise her hand. She just texted me.
Okay.
So I'm here. I'm going to raise my hand. Raise it now, girl. Come on. Was that saying better late than ever?
Right? Yeah, I am not seeing them. Are they maybe a phone call?
I don't know. Well, I know it's not the 917 number because that was on Janet.
Janet.
I don't see another phone number.
Okay.
Come on, May. We're all waiting, May. I don't see her a panelist.
Okay. Do you want me? How about I mean, I don't want to move right into the video because that is kind of the closing.
I don't know. Someone keep talking.
Yeah, I mean,
put someone else on the spot.
Keep talking. I mean, I could tell a story about my experience to swap behind bars.
There you go.
Really quick, because I really appreciate Alex and everything that was done while I was incarcerated. I was able to, I think I had 3 different pen pals, and I was sent a few books, but I had the really amazing chance to meet one of my pen pals and spend some time with her when I was over visiting the UK, which I never thought I would do. But they were from the UK, and I was able to meet them and their mom and spend kind of our co-birthdays together right there in London. So I was exploring London with these 2 Londoners, which is the best thing to do. It was really hot in August, but I'm still in contact with them. And that was back in 2015, 2016. My daughter actually spent Christmas with them when she was over there for school. So, some of these connections that we're able to make are lifelong connections. And I have to say, I know that other people here have been incarcerated. And when you're incarcerated for like an assault or something that's not sex work related, that's completely different. Because I experienced different levels of, issues because of my charge, because sex was listed in my charge. So making contact with people outside of the prison really let me remember that I wasn't a piece of shit like the DOC, Department of Corrections, was trying to make me feel like. So, hey, I see a hand up. I think we have, there's May.
Yay!
All right. Okay, where did they go? They were just there. May, where did you go? Okay, there you are. All right, I'm bringing you in, May. May, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I'm gonna mute myself now.
Sorry, I'm just speaking. It's just a black screen. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. What should I say? Where should I begin?
Anywhere you want.
So I mean, this year has been sort of just kind of, there's like a lot of cosmic sadness obviously about the state of events. Something that I started looking into is, and I'll try to be very brief, is as some of you may know, I've been sort of spending a lot of time with spa workers who are mostly older Asian women, and I can really only speak about Korean women, but the ones that I've met, a lot of them, the older generation people, it turns out a lot of them ended up doing spa work in America because they had begun their careers working in camp towns as as bar hostesses. And earlier this year, Bella?
Yes.
Oh, hi. Sorry, your name popped up. Yeah, so earlier this year, I was in Korea, spending time in these little camp towns, and there's still a lot of like older women who are working, not working there, but they've remained there. And I found these like identity cards that they had made, to form a kind of a mutual aid sort of informal network. And that was very moving to me actually, because in the absence of kind of state support or support of any kind, they had sort of managed to figure out a way to support each other. So that I found really moving. But then the thing that kind of was kind of necessarily upsetting was that their colleague is this woman called Yoon Gumi, who is someone that it's kind of a household name in Korea because she was brutally, well, not brutally. I'm always, whenever people say brutally murdered, I'm like, is there another type of murder? But their colleague was murdered and raped by this like American GI. And this woman ended up kind of sparking up a kind of a modern day Yankee Go Home movement, where a lot of people started organizing to protest the U.S. military presence in the Korean Peninsula. And it's actually the first and last time ever in the history of the American military where the U.S. was forced to amend their status of forces agreement, which is like the treaty that kind of like governs over like how you're going to be prosecuted as a soldier. And so that's the thing that's kind of the world that I've been inhabiting, and that's what I've been thinking about today, especially, but more generally this year. That's kind of the thing I wanted to mention.
Thank you so much. Oh, go ahead, Bella.
No, I was just thanking her. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying thank you for sharing that, May. I wanted to acknowledge because you were ending there, and I wanted to make sure that you knew that we were here listening. So thank you for sharing that. Bella?
I'm good. You want to start the video?
Yes, let me take myself off mute here, and I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone here. 1 second. So this is the video from before, and I'm going to make sure that the volume's working this time. So let's like fingers crossed. And I'm going to share my entire screen. I'm going to share my window. All right.
Beautiful. Let's all give Amber a hand. She put everything together for the video, and this wouldn't have happened without her. Thank you, Amber. We really appreciate you.
Thanks. Thank you, Bella. You were saying we have some names that weren't able to make it on the list too.
Just one that I have. Hold on, I gotta find it. I just texted it to you.
Yeah, I can.
Go ahead,
Her
Ruby.
name. So we have Vanessa Brittany Jennings, and we lost them on November 1st in Sacramento, California.
We'll add her to the master list, even though we didn't get her into the video.
Yeah. And I just want to thank everybody for coming out and spending part of your December 17th. There are quite a few events going on right now. We are really appreciative to all the panelists and the people that were able to just talk on the fly. And I'm very grateful to be a part of something that has really made such an impact in my life. And thank you. And thank you, Bella, for asking me to go ahead and do this with you.
You're welcome. You ready to get in next year? Get in next year with me?
Sure.
Okay, there we go. There we go. We got a commitment. Love it.
We're working out the kinks. It's going to be better next year. Jupiter better not be in Mercury. That's all I'm saying. Let's consult the horoscope. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for coming out. Take care.
I'm going to stop the recording, and we should debrief in a bit.
Yeah.